I'm hearing notifications go off. That means I think we are. I think we're live.
Discord seems to think we are.
Yeah, Discord certainly thinks we are. Hi, everybody. It's a Thursday evening for me. It is a Friday morning for you.
It's still just by 2 minutes. It's still just Thursday evening. So, yes, it is good. Good evening. I'm pleased to be able to say that.
Good evening from the future, right? How many times can we make that future joke? We'll see.
Loads.
All right.
Well, as much as you want to definitely for the next 2 minutes.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, I mean, especially after the next 2 minutes, because we're still in the same day.
Yeah, that's true. But I'm leaving you.
Yeah, you're leaving this day behind.
I'm going to tomorrow. How's your day been?
It has been less busy than last Thursday. Still really busy. I got like most of my meetings done before 9 a.m. So that was kind of nice. Where like last week it was like 3 meetings back to back or something, until like noon or 1 or something. Yeah. Today was much different and it's nice. So hello if you're watching us, wherever you're watching us, welcome. Let's see. What do we got going on today? We're talking about emojis.
Yes. This should be quite good. I've had some good fun talking to my kids about this as well. So I've tried to do the whole generational thing about what different emojis mean to different people. They just largely laughed at me.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, to us, eggplants and peach are produce, and not so.
Well, that was the other thing, because my kids didn't actually understand what an eggplant was, because we call them aubergines.
Oh.
So, when I was sort of showing them your tweet, what's an eggplant? It's an aubergine. But cultural divides.
Yeah. I haven't actually tried this before. But here on Restream, they allow you to put this like down here in the corner. It says pre-show. I'm going to try to put some emoji in there. I thought about naming this episode the Emoji episode, with, the titular character from the Emoji movie, but thought better of it.
Apparently, coincidentally, he watched the Emoji movie today.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, there you go. He was...
There we go. Okay, yeah, no, we can totally do emoji down there. See?
Check you. That's cool.
I feel like we should probably do some more like medical ones, right? There's a ton of medical emojis that they actually use in the example here. I'm going to see if I can pull up some of these, right? Like, this would be kind of cool to do. Like, there's no real easy way to do emojis in. Like, I want to search. I guess I can search. How do I search?
One of the documents I've linked to actually has a bunch of medical emojis there ready to go. Which one was it?
Where was
it? It's in tonight's source document, I think.
Well, they have images of them. I don't know if they put emojis in line with the text.
They've got a couple.
Oh, they do. Yeah.
In the pill.
Here, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take this. I'm going to edit this really quick, and then we're going to throw it in as just like a confusing string of emoji. Ear, hand, leg, foot. People are going to think we're doing head, shoulders, knees, and toes, which is on repeat in this household because it's my son's favorite song right now. Let's see here. If you are watching, how are you all doing tonight? Let us know in whatever chat you are in. I'd love to hear from you. And if you're watching, leave us. Our social thought for tonight was the most recent 4 emojis that you've used, or the most used emojis, or whatever. I'm not sure what it is. Anyway, put the 4 emojis that show up in the chat. And that's what your medical condition is. That's what you're communicating your medical condition is to your healthcare provider. I think that's kind of fun. We got some good responses so far.
I kind of think that this topic should be something that everybody should relate to one way or another.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
I mean, who doesn't use emojis nowadays?
Well, I don't. I still don't. Like, that's
really?
why. Yeah.
Whoa.
I mean, I use emojis more as reactionary. So
yeah.
I'm going to spoil my answer to the social thought tonight. You know, when I went in, mine was fire, peach, eggplant, heart, and the peach and eggplant surprised me because I never use those. The only instances where I use those was today in the construction, if you will, of the YouTube thumbnail. And so they came up in my recents, and I was surprised by that. So, you know, I guess I used fire and heart because I don't know. Anyway, we got the emojis down here. We got ear, hand, knee, foot. Is that syringe, pill, male healthcare worker, female healthcare worker? I can't tell what that other one is. I need to.
It's a cane.
It's a cane. There it is.
Blind people.
Yeah, cane. Yep, mechanical arm, mechanical leg, which I think is awesome and inclusive. You have hearing aid, which is also awesome and inclusive. Stethoscope, blood drop, bone, tooth, and microbe.
Ah, okay. In fact, the one that's been most popular most recently is because they created a specific COVID emoji, didn't they? With the so it looks like it.
Oh, did they? I need to look at that.
Did it go into mainstream, or was it just some of the stuff that I saw? In fact, in that same document, it's just in the graphic, unfortunately. So I can't.
Oh, you know what? They also have mask, face with medical mask. That's another emoji that they have. Adhesive bandages they have as well. I'm gonna add some of these in.
You're just having a good time, aren't you?
Well, no. I mean, I admittedly did some prep work before the show tonight, or before the pre-show tonight, and so I feel pretty well prepared for this.
You're just trying to put me to shame now, aren't you?
No. Because I saw you went into the notes, and I was like, oh, yeah, no, that's, I need to go and do some more.
Also, I guilted you into it. Now you're trying to do
exactly, yes. I am trying to make up for microscope. Oh, yeah, there's a microscope in there. There's a lot of really good ones. And, you know, I'm learning some new things about emoji tonight. Hopefully you are all, too.
It'd be interesting to know from those who are listening who used emoticons before they were emojis. So the whole just use it before they actually transformed into actual pictures. You know, when you put the colon and made the smiley face out the colon and the parentheses and things before they actually turned them into this. So I know I used to, and people used to think I was a bit odd to put them into emails.
I used emoticons. I don't know if I ever used them in professional emails, other than like a smiley face, right? That seems like pretty innocuous. But I certainly used emoticons, especially in like old school MMOs and all that stuff to convey emotion. Curious to hear from everyone else, though. I'm looking at some of these other COVID-related. There's soap. Soap is a good one. We'll throw that one in there. You have like lotion, sweat droplets.
Ew.
Oh, that's kind of cool. There's a social distance. Like people are basically creating. I'm on Emojipedia. And there's a coronavirus page, and people have created this vernacular for emoji. Actually, I'm going to share this since we're on the pre-show. This isn't really audio; it's audio for our patrons. But let's see here. I'm going to actually share this with you all because I think this is really cool and worth sharing. Let me pull up my screen here. Wait, we want to share screen. And we're gonna do this one here. So yeah, so I'm like I said, I'm on Emojipedia here. This is that the right screen? Yeah, there it is. Okay, cool. Let's bring this up. All right, here's Emojipedia, and you can see they've have this vernacular of emoji that's related to the coronavirus. So you have syringe, adhesive bandage, healthcare worker, scientist, which is or healthcare worker, microscope is scientist. You have healthcare worker, you have person and the healthcare symbol, which is health worker. Soap, hand with fingers. The more interesting ones to me are how they combine these things, right? So hand washing or hand washing at small sizes, clapping hands resembles hand washing. If soap is unavailable, use alcohol-based hand rub. That's a lot to convey in just 2 little emojis. You also have like the do not touch your face. So you're doing like the face palm emoji. Do not sneeze into your hands. So there's the sneeze emoji into your hands. And I'm actually kind of surprised with the cleverness of especially with like the social distancing, right? You have like one person and then a 2-way arrow and then another person, keep reasonable distance from others.
Yeah.
It's very cool. Emojipedia is a website I did not know existed until 5 minutes ago. So
every day's a school day. I like that.
Yeah, check that out.
And it must be quite cool. I guess to being a Wikipedia type thing. I guess everybody just contributes to it, but it must be quite good fun to be creating the new emojis that are coming out.
Yeah. Well, so I don't want to bury the lead here, but again, since this is video, I am going to show this because we're talking about it. And I do want to re-mention this on the show tonight as we talk about it proper because it's important. But I do want to go over some of these medical emoji proposed. And we'll talk about what the process is for approval on emojis. I think we have that note in there somewhere, don't we?
I believe so.
Yeah, but if not, let's add it in. But you can see here some of the proposed emojis, which is all medical based. So you have like bandages on your foot. You have intestines. You have bladder, a spine. Looks like a liver. So you drop of blood or bag of blood. Medical machine. You have and you have all these things here. Even a heart rate, heartbeat. What's the word I'm looking for? What is that? Heartbeat. Wavelength or waveform. Yeah. It's a heartbeat waveform. Yeah.
It's a funny red line.
That's it. Yeah. It's the stock market is. I mean, that's how people would use it, I'm sure. But pulse. Anyway, pulse wavelength. You can see it here if you're watching. I'm trying to describe it for our patrons who are not here.
I'm trying to find that bit on exactly how I would get them through to the global standard.
Kristen's joining us on Twitch. She says Twitch's emojis are crazy. Looks like people just created their faces as emoji. Twitch uses that term lightly. It's more like reaction GIFs in a lot of cases. They do have emoji in there, but yeah, they do have kind of stock GIF emoji reactions. One that was in the news a while ago was PogChamp, which was a reaction to a exciting moment. As if somebody was playing a game and there was an exciting moment, people would use the PogChamp emoji. There was some controversy about the person behind that image, and so they randomized it for a bit. I'm not sure whatever came of that, but I do know that they use that term emoji loosely, right? Okay. I do want to make sure that we circle back on the notes here. So, want to check with you, Barry. Is the blurb, the like reading, is that all good?
Yep.
On your
okay. I did that earlier, and I've mixed a bit from both, but yes, it gives us a decent introduction.
So I want to talk about, let's see here, every year. basically there's this Unicode consortium.
Yeah.
And we want to make sure. Let's see here.
Oh, apparently anybody can submit. Oh, that's interesting. We should create a Human Factors podcast emoji, submit it to Unicode for approval.
See, I was thinking, how do you communicate human factors, right? What is emoji for factors?
Isn't that the eternal question that no human factors practitioner can answer?
Right.
What is human factors? We never know.
The PogChamp emoji is the snake, I think. It's not going to come through. Yeah, it's going to, we're on Restream, so it won't communicate effectively. I can see it here, but when I try to share it, it doesn't quite go through. But thanks for sharing, Kristen. If you're on Twitch, you can see that. Let's see here. Again, if you're watching and want to contribute to this week's Social Thoughts, the question this week was, or I guess it's a request this week, reply with your 4 most recent emojis to describe your medical issues to your doctor. And you leave those in chat, and we'll include them on the show. Or wherever you're at. You can still get to us at Twitter on H Factors Podcast or on Instagram. I'll check those one last time before we go on. Make sure that those are included.
Cool.
I'll check Instagram right now to see if we got any more responses. I really liked the social thought this week. I think it's really simple and easy to contribute.
Nice and engaging.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Our engagement metrics for that tweet are going to be rather high. Because that's an important thing that we track. Not very well, but we do track it.
You can't beat a good bit of metric tracking.
Yeah, I've developed some internal metrics to measure the growth of the podcast over the last couple months, and I don't know why I didn't do all this stuff sooner. I kind of was just keeping track of it in my head and was looking at them individually, but seeing them all together has been really helpful to understand what's doing well and what's not. It's almost as if I was taking the lessons learned from everyday, human factors practicing and applying it to the metrics that influence how the podcast is doing. Kind of ridiculous.
You're not practicing what you preach.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah. Calling me out.
I'll say don't get carried away with that. I mean, people will get all scared and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, for a while, I was tracking metrics on a daily basis, and it just got too tedious, and it was bumming me out in a lot of ways because, we wouldn't get a follower one day. And I started doing it monthly, and that's much better to step back and go, okay, yes, the curve is still positive. We're good. We're reaching out to a different audience. And speaking of new audiences, if you are joining us for the first time from one of the most recent conferences we covered, welcome. We love having new folks around here.
Come and contribute. Say hello.
Yeah, do all that stuff.
Drop us a message.
Drop us a message. So yeah, no more emojis on Instagram. I'm going to check ye old tweets. Let's see here.
Oh, my restreaming through my Facebook account is working. Wow. The wonder of modern technology.
Yeah, isn't that cool?
Yeah, never done that before. It's first time for everything.
Yeah, the one thing I'm a little bummed about with Restream. So we did do what I guess Periscope. Oh, you know what? It's okay. It's working. For some reason, it's not showing us numbers on Twitter. But I was worried because they discontinued Periscope.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And now they just do it directly through Twitter. And I didn't see the Twitter on the Restream interface, but I just on Twitter now, and it seemed to be working. So that's great.
Cool.
Let's see here. I was looking for social thoughts. That's right.
I was going. Okay.
No more social thoughts on Twitter. That's okay. Anything else we need for show notes here? I think we got a pretty good stacked deck here.
So the main story is okay. We need to choose 3 from It Came From.
Oh, It Came From. Yes, that we do need that. Let's take a look at what is in our bank here. We have How to Break Into the Field of Human Factors. This is from a CAD background. Could be kind of fun. I don't have experience with that, but I like this one. How to help with justifying or help with justifying how a UX course would help with my current role. I think justification in general is something that's important to know, especially as it relates to professional development as well as conference going, right? Like what will the company get for going to those things? Is that something you want to talk about?
Yeah, no, I think that's good. I mean, fundamentally, it boils down to how do you blag going to conference, or getting somebody else to pay for what it is you want to do.
Yeah, that one. Okay, so we'll go ahead and kill that one. We'll see if we can find a better one than How to Break Into the Field of Human Factors, because I feel like we've answered that one on the show before, and it's how do you organize user feedback? This is an interesting one.
Quite a
that
big
really
one.
Depends on the individual.
And it depends. There we go.
Yeah.
First one tonight.
I'd be interested to see how you organize your user feedback. You want to talk about that one, or is that giving away too much secret sauce?
Oh no, not at all. No, I think it's again. I'm trying to think about how I'd go into that without it depends.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that could be a valid answer too, right? Like, I mean, we need the it depends button.
It always is.
We need that it depends button. All right, so we got about 10 minutes till showtime here. Let's see. Well, let's grab one more.
I added one at the bottom, which is
I saw that one
from Reddit. But I don't know. I thought it might be good, but it might be a bit too deep. It's talk about anti-ergonomics in a way. But then it's not publicly accessible source. You have to be a member of the CIHF to get into it. Yeah,
so that's the reason. The paywall is the reason we don't use anything from the HFES forums. And because I do want to read it though. Hang on, let me see here. Designing. Okay. Interesting. Discouraging. I'm going to only read a portion of this. Discouraging unwanted behavior with uninviting or difficult to use design. That's really intriguing to me, and I love that discussion.
Like I said, let's keep parity with what you do with the other stuff and not use it.
Yeah, that would be really cool talk too. I mean, that could be a whole episode on anti-ergonomics.
That's kind of why I threw it in there, because I thought it'd be of interest. But possibly not for this section. And
you know what? I'm going to throw that in our Human Factors Minute pile, because that could be cool.
Cool. Okay. This what was the one? The jumping from a junior to a mid-level role. I didn't know what that was because that's kind of generic, isn't it? It's not necessarily just about HF UX. No, you talk about managing HF projects. You talk about I guess we could go with that. That would be because I think we said the other day that the digital or AR that what's the future? I mean, that's an episode in itself, isn't it?
Yeah,
that's huge.
Let me just throw in unassigned episode bank. Throw in anti-ergonomics. That text that you had in there. So many tabs up. How do people manage how did people manage before tabs, honestly? And how do people manage with tabs, honestly?
I was going to say, I've still got two browser screens open with multiple tabs on all of them. How people manage without two screens before now, I don't know.
I have a 3-headed display, and I still struggle.
Friend of mine, one of the super big 49-inch super wide screens.
Yeah,
and that's an impressive piece of kit. But my desk's not big enough for it, and also they're super expensive.
All right, so I've got some general notes. All right, let's see here. Future digital. Okay, yeah, we didn't like that one, right? And then the junior to mid-level role. You know what? Let me check our. Well, first off, let me check our chat. Oh, we're good. Let me check our It Came From bot. See if there's any good ones in there. Looks like Katie's gone through and identified some for us. She likes which one did she like? She liked this one. I've just completed my Google UX cert and doing my resume. I have 3 case studies. Should I put those projects on my resume as well as my actual work experience as a front-end developer? I don't know if I like that question.
So the answer is yes. So
yeah, it is. Let's see here. What about profile evaluation? Why are people? Well, that's racist, and I'm not going to say that one.
Probably best.
How did that make it to the top? Yeah, that's. Huh?
How are you sorting these? Because I can't.
I'm in the It Came From.
Yeah.
And so all these that come through the bot are top posts on these.
I see what you mean. Yeah, sorry, I think.
Yeah. So I don't know how the one that was posted at 1:35 p.m. I guess yesterday, maybe. Yeah. Anyway, so we're gonna ignore that one.
Which one? So there's this one here around prototyping wizards. Is it worthwhile to become a greater prototype without any deep knowledge of coding? I'm a freelance UX designer that usually works on end-to-end design from ideation to handoff. I love what I do, but I found that with my clients, the need for prototyping realistic applications is almost non-existent. Should you use Azure? Yeah, see, that's an interesting one. Is there enough out there for just to be able to do the prototype bit without the in-depth bit, without linking it up to the back?
Oh yeah, I did see that one. Oh, yeah. Funny.
It depends.
Here's iOS update bad UX, and I have that as my one more thing this week. Let's see. I got rejected from it. Oh, you know what? I liked this one. I'm curious to hear what you think about it. So I got rejected from an interview, even though they reached out to me. And I feel like to a lot of people, this would be fairly obvious.
Yeah, but go with that. I like that.
You do like that one? Okay, we'll do that one here. Read the room, dude.
In our thing.
Read the room, dude. All right, I'm gonna.
Yeah.
Format paint. There we go.
Yeah, I've been greedy, and for my one more thing, I've got 2 more things, and I've got right at the last minute. I'm going to choose which one I'm going to do.
That is fine. We certainly have room for many things. Okay. All right, we'll save those for the bank. Let's see here. Making sure we have everything. I have been towards the end recommending other
clever
episodes.
Yeah, that works.
I need to find one that.
Where do you go with this?
Let's see here. Let me take a quick look on our website to see if there's any other ones where we mentioned emoji. Feel like there have been, but we'll see. Emoji. We'll do a quick search on the website, and it looks like Maybe healthcare. What communication? Let's see. I felt like I had a really good one to link in with this, but I don't remember. Maybe.
I don't remember one, but that then doesn't mean it didn't happen.
Yeah. Healthcare. Maybe how work pandemic protocol. No, that doesn't quite fit. If you like this episode on this thing, check out this other thing. Maybe I'll plug the healthcare symposium because that'll open up a bunch of doors. Check out our recap of. All right, looks like we have just 1 minute before we go live. I want to make sure we're all good. Anything else before we go live here?
Don't think so. I think we are.
All right.
Got everything there, and then straight into that. We've got social thoughts. We've got final thoughts. Yep, be good.
All righty. Well, we're going to take just a quick break. We'll be back in exactly 1 minute, and we'll start the show. I'm going to record on my end, if you wouldn't mind, just in case we run into any audio issues.
Well, I'll just fire that up, and we'll make sure that works.
Yeah.
Skip. Prime.
Testing. Yeah, that's good. All right.
Yeah, and mine's working too. Yes, I'm good.
All right. Well, we will be right back in just 1 minute. Stick around, and we'll be here to talk about emoji stuff.
Welcome to Human Factors Cast, your weekly podcast for human factors, psychology, and design.
Hello, everyone. This is episode 220. We're recording this live on September 30th, 2021, or otherwise known as International Podcast Day, because there's a day for everything. This is Human Factors Cast. I'm your host, Nick Roome. I'm joined today again by Mr. Barry Kirby.
Hello and good morning, because it's now morning here, and I'm at the 1st of October, so I'm in the future.
You are not only in the next day, you are in the next month away from me. We got
didn't even think of that.
We got a great show for you tonight. We're going to be talking about emoji and communication between patients and doctors. But first, we got a little bit of programming notes here for you all. Just to give you all an update, you might have noticed co-host of the show, Blake, he's been out. He's going to be out on a temporary hiatus for a little bit. We're not sure when he's going to be back, but he will be back. Everything's okay. Don't worry. He's in good health. Nothing's wrong health-wise. If there was, he'd be communicating with his doctor about using emoji. There's other stuff going on. We can't talk about it. Anyway, he'll be back. We're going to figure it out. And aside from that, I do want to quickly plug, we're always working on really exciting things behind the scenes. And Barry and I have been talking even about potentially other exciting things behind the scenes here. So if you are interested in any of that, I encourage you to reach out to me, reach out to the podcast on any of our social platforms to talk about maybe joining the Human Factors Cast Digital Media Lab. Like I said, it's kind of a way for you to get involved and potentially get your hands on some really cool stuff that we got coming down the pipeline. Anyway, enough of me blabbering. We know why you're here. You're here for... Human Factors News. This is the part of the show all about Human Factors News. This is where we talk about everything related to the field. Barry, what do we have? What's the story this week?
So we talked about emojis are proposed as a powerful way for patients and doctors to communicate. So emoji, that universal lexicon of colourful and clever symbols that meant to replace the written and spoken word, could be a valuable tool in the field of medicine, allowing patients to better communicate symptoms, concerns, and other clinically relevant information. And this is argued by Massachusetts General Hospital physicians and others. So in a commentary in the Journal of the American Medical Association, senior author Xuan He, medical doctor, is in an emergency department attending, suggests that each medical discipline begin discussions around the creation of its own unique set of iconography for official adoption and incorporation into everyday practice. So for those of us who are possibly not aware, in 2010, Emoji was officially introduced as a global lexicon as part of Unicode. And I think we'll probably talk a bit more about how that happens later. But the Unicode is the computing standard adhered to by most of the world's word processing systems. Today, emojis occupies the same status in Unicode as the Latin letter A Chinese character, or an Arabic character. And an estimated 5 billion are used every day on Facebook and in Facebook Messenger alone. As of 2020, there are 3,521 emoji in the Unicode standard, roughly 30 of which could be considered relevant to medicine, excluding generic body parts such as your ear, hand, etc. The current set of medical emoji is the result of ongoing, if erratic, efforts over the last 5 years. It's attempting to dismiss emoji as a millennial fad, but they possess the power of standardization, universality, and familiarity, and in the hands of physicians and other healthcare providers, could present a new and highly effective way to communicate pictorially with patients, says he. In emergency medicine settings where time is crucial, emoji could lead to a point-and-tap form of communication that could facilitate important clinical decisions. The tiny graphic symbols now span all digital platforms, from mobile to tablet to desktop. They could also have the utility as annotations to hospital discharge instructions, which are often confusing, if not comprehensible, to some patients. So, what do you think of that?
That's a lot to take in. So, emojis. We were talking a little bit before the show about our emoji usage. I don't really use emoji all that much. And so to hear that it might be the key to communicating with healthcare professionals was surprising to me. On the other hand, I've seen it used more recently. I've seen it used a lot more recently. And I would say that, I understand it for the most part when it comes across. Yeah. And we can talk about interpretation of it, but generally, great. The better we can improve communication between doctors and patients, I think the better, right? What are your thoughts on this article, just in general?
I think it's anything that we can do to improve communication between. I mean, the medical discipline is such an involved discipline, and most people are coming into the medical domain at a really scary time for them, particularly if they're going now into the emergency department or something like that. So anything that we can do that allows the better communication and more immediate communication, then that could be a good thing. When we're using this, I think it's, as we say, and I think we'll probably go into, the interpretation of some emojis means different things to different people. You put on the promotion part of this the use of the eggplant and the peach. One person's eggplant is not another person's eggplant, and it's there's also the generational thing here around. Okay, so how do we as patients interpret these eggplants and peaches and things? But how do the doctors, do the medical staff truly know what they're conveying by using the certain emojis? So, but the other thing that I like about emojis is that they transcend language. A smiley face is a smiley face, and it crosses culture, it crosses language barriers. So yeah, I can sort of see how it's how there is stacks of potential there, but I also worry about the level of confusion that it could cause. You could cause grave offense by just using the wrong emoji, right? But I think it'd be useful. I mean, why don't we go back to how does an emoji come about in the first place?
Yeah, so we did a little bit of research before the show, and there's a whole episode on Roman Mars's podcast. I'm blanking on the name, but they go through the creation of emoji and what it takes to make an emoji. But just to kind of shorthand everything, there's this Unicode consortium, and they hear out some of these proposals on new emoji every year. Basically, they look through all of them. The best proposals are approved and then turned into emoji and then released to the public. And so that's why, it seems like annually you're getting these new emojis. The submission process is public, and basically anyone in the world can make an emoji or submit an emoji, but it's going to be the ones with the strongest proposals by this that are evaluated then by this consortium that are accepted and released into the world, right? And I think they do have criteria that they evaluate this against, right? So they look at sort of the compatibility. Is this approved on other platforms already? It increases its chances if so, right? And then they kind of look at how the expected usage level, right? How often or frequently are they expecting people to use these new emojis? It needs to be distinct, so it needs to be separate, visually distinct from another emoji that already exists, and then it needs to be complete. So it needs to be able to fill in a gap that's present in the current emoji library. And all this context is going to be important when we actually talk about the story here in just a minute. Yeah. But I do want to bring up, so we talked about emoji, what it's born. I do want to get to our social thoughts really quick, and I'll start with mine. So we put out on the internet this week, reply with your 4 most recent emojis to describe your medical issues to your doctor. The podcast account was smiley face, thumbs up, brain 100%. So I'm guessing the podcast is in good health and our brain is functioning 100%. That's my interpretation of it.
Right.
I'll go over mine, and it's a less than optimal outcome. So we got fire, peach, eggplant, and heart for mine. And I have an explanation for that. So I don't really use emoji. We talked about this a little bit before the show. But to me, I got to check something out, because if my peach is on fire, then, well, anyway. So
your get to love. So yeah.
We'll get back to more social thoughts in a minute. But what are your any comments on how emojis are born before we get into sort of more context on emojis here?
Yeah, it's interesting that, I mean, you found before we went live the Emojipedia, the fact that there is a whole Wikipedia-based resource that you can go and find emojis for everything. And having gone through the recent COVID pandemic, then obviously there's been a whole splurge of new coronavirus-related emojis, which I think can only have helped, because certainly when we saw the coronavirus emoji itself going around sort of Twitter and things, then you could tell that it was different. You could tell that it was new. Therefore, it was sending a message, which I thought was quite good. But also, as Kirsten says in our Discord, some emojis are not necessarily standard just because they've gone into Unicode. There's platforms that use their own interpretation of things. So Kirsten highlights Twitch has its own sort of set of emojis that it uses. So just because it's not part of the consortia, yes, if it's part of the consortia, then it's likely to be adopted throughout any platforms that uses Unicode. But there's still platforms that can still go it alone and add in their own bit of spice, as it were. The other thing I really like, and we'll possibly go into it as well, is how how emojis have now become a lot more inclusive. So you can have just a simple thumbs up with the standard yellow hand, the Simpsons hand perhaps, but now it actually reflects skin color as well. So if you on your Apple device, you can select what color the hand you want, what color skin you want to have on the hand to do the thumbs up with, which I think is just really brilliant in the way that we've taken a something that's seen as fairly standard and actually made it really inclusive as well.
Yeah, great points. I think you make a great point with the inclusivity, and I think that's one of their kind of goals at the consortium, is to make sure that it's universal, right? They want to make sure that it is something that can communicate across barriers. They don't exactly say that in their criteria here, but at least for the factors of inclusion, right? That's what they're looking at. And I think I want to get into a little bit of background on healthcare and why using emojis in healthcare can be so impactful. So just to get a little bit of background here about healthcare, this comes from a report from the World Health Organization. So they've kind of consolidated a lot of research. This is from 2009. It's a little older, but a lot of it still stands. So just generally in healthcare, they cite that communication failures are one of the leading causes for inadvertent patient harm. And, I think that is an important statement, but it's not necessarily as it relates to this story. So we're talking about team communication for the most part in this. And one thing that as I was reading through this report from the World Health Organization, I was surprised that they comment on it, but it's not as explored as some of the other team communications in healthcare settings, right? So, when you consider a team of healthcare professionals, you're dealing with issues where there's handoff issues or communication issues for like providing patient background information to a new location, or even handing off to a different doctor in between shifts. So there's a lot of stuff going on here behind the scenes when it relates to teamwork. And then, as it relates to the patient-doctor relationship, we can talk about that in terms of the article, but is there anything that you wanted to bring up in terms of like communication and healthcare?
Yeah, I think one of the prevalent issues in healthcare, and I don't think it's countrywide. I think it is international. The seniority in healthcare teams has always been an issue. So if somebody junior within the operating theatre or something like that raises an issue and says, "Oh, I'm not sure whether you've done something right," then the senior surgeon in the room, or whoever it is the most senior in the room, sometimes, or certainly historically, that can be one of the failures, that they refuse to be told what to do, and then they've done something wrong. So I think around that team and bringing in better, the big drive, certainly in the NHS in the UK, the National Health System in the UK, is to bring around better communications and listening to everybody, and making sure that everybody's view is heard and appreciated and valid. So I think there's around just that general teamwork element. It's trying to push the real teaming aspect, not just the hierarchy and control aspect.
Yeah, I'm going to read a statistic here that's kind of shocking. So it's been suggested that anywhere from 70 to 80% of healthcare errors are caused by human factors associated with poor team communication and understanding. Again, this is kind of focused on the team, but it really does kind of go. It highlights how important communication is in the healthcare setting. Even though it's the team communicating, you can imagine that there's similar breaks or similar gaps in communication with respect to the patient and the doctor. I don't know if the percentage is going to be that high, but it's kind of crazy that all this stuff like teamwork, communication, leadership are all critical to a safe environment, and just how this good communication can really reduce any problems with patient safety.
Absolutely. I mean, when you think about that doctor or healthcare professional and patient barrier, almost, the healthcare professional knows so much. They know you better than you know you, because they've perhaps seen things inside you that you don't ever want to see. And they've got that whole knowledge and everything around them, that they need to be able to communicate to you as a patient what you need to know, without terrifying you, in a way that will be proactive and positive for you to be able to make the right decisions in going forward. So they've got a whole lot of judgments to make around just how much to tell you, to be open and honest about what's going on. But perhaps, it's one of these jobs where oversharing is a bad idea, but also undersharing is a tremendously bad idea as well. So it's there's got to be a real skill there in how to pitch information in a way that is proactive and productive. And I think rather them than me.
Yeah. That's a great segue. Let's get back into the article here, because the article is basically suggesting that emoji is kind of one of these key ways in which patient-doctor communication can be improved. And they give a couple examples here. I do want to go through some of these examples, so that way we kind of wrap our heads around the context here. So, for example, right, written discharge instructions might be really confusing to many patients. And we talked about sort of the inclusivity as well as universal understanding of emoji, right? At least as they hope that there's this universal understanding of emoji, and that might be one of the issues with this. But the uncertainty for the reason of hospitalization or being unable to describe diagnosis. So being able to communicate that in emoji, right? That might be a better way to communicate those types of things. You have preliminary evidence suggesting that patients, particularly those with lower health literacy, especially, might prefer reported outcome data in emoji format because they might better comprehend what's going on. So that's just one example, but I think it's an important example because you do have varying levels of I guess literacy with health. And so being able to communicate that there's, problems with this body part and you take this many pills at this time of day might be just what the doctor ordered.
Well, it makes sense when you think about it, though, doesn't it? Because it's the whole picture paints 1,000 words. The rather than trying to describe what sort of pill or what sort of medication you're on, the ability just to show the picture of it, or the, like the pulling the right body part. And I think a lot of this is coming more prevalent because you're not necessarily in with your doctor or healthcare professional all the time. At the moment, we're doing still a lot more remote, so general practitioner engagement. Your healthcare professional, you might be seeing on something like the technology we're using at the moment, like a web meeting or something. So the ability to put into chat or whatever using the mini pictures to create the describing what you're feeling is surely got to be an easier way for both sides to understand it, as long as everybody does understand it. I think it's probably quite key to say that the article is not suggesting that we use all of the current emojis as they currently sit to do all of this. They're suggesting that they're going to promote a whole new bank of emojis to support this this capability. Because as we said in the initial introduction, there's a limited number of medical emojis at the moment. And whilst you've got an arm and a leg, there's other body parts that you may want to allude to. And that takes us right back to, I guess, eggplants and peaches.
Yeah. I mean, let's talk about that proposed list of emojis, because I think it's important to talk about some of them. So I'm going to do a poor job of describing some of these, and that's going to be a theme throughout tonight's episode is me poorly describing emojis. And actually, before we describe some of the medical emojis, I do want to take a break and look at more of the social thoughts, because we only got to myself in the podcast. So I'm gonna. Is it okay if I reveal yours, or do you want to you reveal yours?
Okay, so my first one was the smiley face with the heart eyes. So still not entirely sure what that means. Then I've got the closed fist, which I think I'm supposed to be fist bumping. But then I've got the microphone and the computer. So I'm presumably got punched in the head whilst very happy. But now I can't speak because I've been punched in the face and I can't do anything on the computer.
To me, that reads, I punched you in the face with a request to be on the podcast tonight, and now you're forced to podcast. That's what what I'm reading.
I've got podcastitis. There we go.
Podcastitis on National Podcast Day. All right. I'll read one more here. This one's from Taylor. It's side eyes, crying, laughing face with a monocle as the next one, and then a checkbox. So I'm assuming this is telling a story of, like, not sure if everything's okay, laughing about the misunderstanding, doing a double check, and then everything's a-okay. That's what I'm interpreting with that one. All right, let's get into some of these proposed emojis that they are talking about in this study here. I'm trying to find it. Do you have?
Yeah, I've got it. So it's interesting. So they're in fact some of these were proposed in 2020, but so they've got the very specific small and large intestine. They've got the liver. They've got the kidneys. They've got the stomach. They've got the lower leg, but in a plaster cast or a bandage. I think it's plaster cast or a bandage. And then you've got a spine. You've got one, but then you've got one for pills. You've got one for a blood plasma bag, so for getting a transfusion. Then you've got a fluids bag, so for just general fluid. Then that's a CT scanner. Because that goes into that. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And you've got a black ball. I'm not entirely sure what the black ball is.
Is that a weight scale? Is that the weight scale that they're talking about there?
Oh, it could be, but it doesn't have anything on there. It's a bit. It almost looks like a pool ball or a snooker ball.
Yeah. That one could be confusing.
Then we've got the pill box. So a nice pill box which has your pills in every day, and then you've got a white version of what I think is coronavirus or just a general virus or something like that. Then you've got crutches, and then you've got an ECG readout. So what you get on the heart monitor, your heart trace. And I still can't think of the actual word for it, even though we've been looking at that now for the best part of an hour.
They just call it ECG. The white one, the white coronavirus, that's a white blood cell, is what they call it.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So this is a great list of emoji here that they proposed, but I do want to go over there's some that are already out there that could be really useful for this type of application, and I'll go over those. So right now they have a syringe, they have a pill, they have like a medical professional, male and female. They have a cane or a blind stick, a blind cane. They have mechanical arm, mechanical leg, a hearing aid, which is really inclusive. I'm really happy about that. They also have a stethoscope, a blood droplet, a bone, a tooth, looks like some sort of virus, a heart, and lungs. So they have quite a extensive example here of things that are already in practice, and that could be combined with some of the other emojis that are out there, like face mask or bandage or microscope, or even the medical symbol I think is out there. I think they even have microbe as a emoji out there. So there's ways in which you can use this to communicate, and I think it's important to kind of recap where we're at and where we could be. What are your thoughts on these proposed emoji? Do you think there's anything? I mean, we already kind of talked a little bit about a criticism with one of them, with the black ball with the smaller ball in the middle. We're not quite sure what that is. I think it's a weight scale.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's a weight scale. Yeah, I don't like that one. I think they need to go back to the drawing board with that one. Agree. But in principle, I mean, some of these things, do they need to be in sort of general approved emoji through the Unicode consortium, or would these be better suited to specific medical applications? So I can easily see you having the medical practitioner having a tablet and asking the patients to point to any one of these symbols of the body parts, what hurts, what do you need, and passing them back and forth. So on the one hand, you could say, well, actually, that doesn't need to be general knowledge. That just needs to be within the medical domain, because if they do their job properly, they should immediately convey exactly what they're talking about. That said, if they are part of the Unicode consortium, then and they're available to everybody, then that means that everybody implicitly knows what they are, and so there's that general learning piece. The third issue with that, I think, also the third way of looking at it is, as we sort of said with some of the other emojis, the way that they're interpreted changes, and it changes through age, through generations, and
across cultures too.
Yeah, and across cultures. Could some of these be, I guess, reinterpreted by different people to mean different things? So we keep on referring back to the peach and the eggplant. Clearly, we're not talking about a peach and an eggplant. But when I was I sort of had a chat with my kids tonight over dinner, but talking about what we're going to talk about tonight, and there's misinterpretations or different interpretations of current emojis. So my daughter sent me an emoji with the crying face emoji, so a sad crying face, and so me and my wife were very much of the, well, why are you sad? What's up? What's upset you? And then it took her boyfriend to then drop into the conversation and say, actually, no, that's her saying she's really, really happy. I'm like, well, it's not, because that's a sad crying face. Yeah, the tears of joy and laughter one is the other one. It's different, but it's just the way that they use them differently. So kids are today, I tell you.
Yeah.
But again, it sort of shows, it's one person's liver isn't the same, isn't potentially another person's liver. So, or it might be at the moment, but it'll evolve over time. So we've got to be able to make sure that we understand the breadth of how how the language works.
Right. And I think as we get to the specific body parts, that might be less and less of an issue. And especially in the medical community, we do want that to be kind of less of an issue, right? I mean, you mentioned how it changes generationally, and this could be used for, children who are still developing some of these language skills. And in fact, there's evidence for this, right? I mean, there's I think it's the FACES pain rating scale. It's helped children kind of navigate their pain. I think it was in 1983 by this report. But basically, it's showing a series of faces ranging from a happy face at 0 or no hurt to a crying face at 10, which represents hurt like the worst pain imaginable. But there's issues with this, right? They're trademarked and come with licensing fees. But if you use something like Emoji that are freely open source and non-proprietary, then it's a nice alternative that's not cost prohibitive and potentially more familiar to patients. Especially as Emoji is within that Unicode library, and you have many more people accessing it. Right? It's not like they see these 10 separate faces on the FACES pain rating scale.
Yeah.
And it's not just that for children, but you have other pain rating scales like visual analog scales used in medicine to measure, communicate the intensity or frequency of symptoms. And so these things exist already. It's just using different pictorial representations to that are open source and freely available that also help with kind of the familiarity with these types of things.
That's right. And it should be a lot here as well about again thinking about how we evolve as a species almost, because when a lot of these rating scales were first made, emojis didn't exist. So now that we're getting there, it becomes freely available, and therefore it seems to me to be particularly as we use more telemedicine, telecare, that type of thing. You can use it for children, and also as we get older, then we'll be more used to using this as we go into old age many years from now. But then emojis will be second nature for us. So it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I want to get to a couple more social thoughts and then we'll wrap this up. So, again, it was reply with the 4 most recent emojis to describe medical issues to your doctor. Aaron says crying, laughing, lion, sigh, and pumpkin. I'm not sure how to interpret that. I'm thinking maybe they were laughing, then got attacked by a lion that made them exasperated, and now they turned into a pumpkin or something. And then the last one here is by Ghostine on Instagram. Here we got what is that? Scared, blood, skull, grave. So it's not turning out well for Ghostine there.
That was a bad day, I think.
Yeah. Scared, then blood was drawn, then they died, and now they're in a grave. Okay. All right. Let's go ahead and wrap this up here. I want to talk about sort of the impact that COVID-19 has had on telemedicine and kind of this whole being able to interact with doctors at scale.
Yeah.
So, thinking about sort of, both the CDC and the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, they've recommended this telemedicine as a way to provide care safely for patients during the pandemic. And you think about that communication between people, especially in a situation where you're not face to face, you want to communicate the right things. And so they're also suggesting that in this context, healthcare workers might be able to use online messages or emoji in these online messages to convey symptoms, help patients understand their condition and instructions via recognition rather than recall, right? So if you see like a sick face, do you feel like that? Or, I'm just throwing things out there, right? Is there any blood or, what hurts? I'm thinking those might be kind of cool as a way to communicate. The recognition rather than recall is really important here. Because they might present you with a series of emojis and you just respond with the ones that you recognize in, your symptoms, and might be better to visually represent those types of things rather than a series of, a string of text that just says, hey, what symptoms have you? Fever,
Yeah, I think what the pandemic has shown us that telemedicine, telecare is here to stay. It worked, and so I think there's going to be a strong push to keep doing some of that, so so doctors can deal with maybe simpler cases without people having to go through to going into the surgery and things. So being able to use this capability to allow that to happen is going to be essential for us moving forward. So I think if they get these new emojis actually submitted and approved, then I think we could see I think we will see them being used. It'll be interesting to see how it goes.
I hope so. All right. Well, thank you so much to our patrons this week for selecting the topic, and thank you to our friends over at Massachusetts General Hospital for our news story this week. If you want to follow along, you can follow me on office hours every Monday night, where I find these news stories, and we do post the links to all the original articles on our weekly roundups and our blog. You can also join us on our Slack or Discord for more discussion on these stories. Leave us your favorite emojis over there. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll see what's going on in the Human Factors community right after this.
Human Factors Cast brings you the best in human factors news, interviews, conference coverage, and overall fun conversations into each and every episode we produce. But we can't do it without you. The Human Factors Cast network is 100% listener supported. All the funds that go into running the show come from our listeners. Our patrons are our priority, and we want to ensure we're giving back to you for supporting us. Pledges start at just $1 per month and include rewards like access to our weekly Q&As with the hosts, personalized professional reviews, and Human Factors Minute, a Patreon-only weekly podcast where the hosts break down unique, obscure, and interesting human factors topics in just 1 minute. Patreon rewards are always evolving, so stop by patreon.com/humanfactorscast to see what support level may be right for you. Thank you, and remember, it depends.
Huge thank you, as always, to our patrons, especially our honorary Human Factors Cast staff patrons like Michelle Tripp. Patrons like you keep the show running. Thank you all so much for your continued support. If you want to become a patron, it's easy for you to do. We have a link in the description of this episode. You can find it on our website. You can find it pretty much everywhere. We always got fun stuff going on over there, and we might have some more fun stuff coming up in the future. I think that's okay to say. Anyway, check that out. If you fancy that. Anyway, I'm gonna stop talking now. I don't like the self promotion is always hard. Anyway, go check it out if you feel like it. We're gonna get into this next part of the show.
It came from.
Yes, it came from. This week, it's all Reddit, but that's okay. This is part of the show where we search all over the internet to bring you topics the community is talking about. If you find these answers useful, give us a like wherever you're at to help other people find this content. I think we have time for 3. I think we'll say 3 tonight.
Okay. We can be ambitious.
We might cut one for time, but we'll see. I'm going to get into this first one here. This is help with justifying how a UX course would help with my current role. This is from NCI SCO Kid on the user experience subreddit. I'm signing up for UX course. My current role is working with proposal graphics, process, and architectural diagrams, etc. I want to pivot my role to UX instead of being a proposal graphics designer and give that up completely. My boss is behind me taking the course, but wants me to be able to justify it to higher ups in order to get the company to cover it. Since I'm not really super familiar with UX in general, does anyone have any exposure to both kinds of work that you can help with some bullet points as to how the course would benefit my current proposal role. Please and thank you. So I want to talk about two things here, Barry. I want to talk about first, how do you justify going to something that you're not necessarily an expert in, or like, let's say you wanted to go to a separate conference about a specific topic that maybe isn't human factors. And then two, how do you justify going to human factors or conferences or, participating in these courses?
So I guess first up for me, it's if you're looking at basically broadening your horizon, which is if you're going to look at something that's not necessarily as part of your role, then that's what you're doing. Then you've got to be able to couch that in what does it bring to the business? What value does it mean to your boss or to your department or to the overall capability of the company if you know this broader range of skills? So sometimes it can be exploratory, and if it's a bit cheaper, if it's something that doesn't require, say, a vast amount of time or money, so a day, maybe a couple of days, whatever, then sometimes you can justify it by saying, look, I don't know whether it's going to help, but it sounds interesting. I think it might have links, therefore it's worth a punt. It's worth us giving it a shot. But if you're wanting to invest thousands of pounds in a new course, pivoting you away from what you do, then you've got to lay that out a bit stronger. You've got to come up with effectively a business case about why you need to do it, or get your boss really drunk and get them to agree to it when they didn't realize. But no, in seriously, you've got to be able to lay it out in business terms. If you're expecting the business to pay for it, you've got to fundamentally say, what are they going to get out of it? If you're pivoting away from something, which was hinted at, how are they going to have that capability going forward? So who's going to pivot into your role to do what you were doing, and basically make it so you've got all the answers. So if you put yourself in the position of the people who are going to justify this, answer their questions beforehand, get it all written down, get their argument laid out, and crack on. Most times I've sort of done this a couple of times where I've wanted to learn something new. So I've maybe done a bit of coding, or I've done, in fact, when I pivoted out of engineering into human factors. So and look at me now. So that kind of works. But you've got to be able to justify it. You've got to be able to justify it, not to yourself, but to the people who are going to pay the bills.
Yeah, I will say it's an interesting case breaking out from another field into human factors or user experience, because I feel like it's a little easier to sell that, rather than being inside human factors and going outward towards other things. I'm going to talk about it from this perspective because I feel like, as people might be looking into the human factors field or UX field, it's an easy sell. And all you have to say is, honestly, any training or any sort of thought into making a product better for the user is going to have return on investment. And this is obviously of somebody that's coming from the field, knowing what that can do. And so actually, being able to quantify that return on investment and saying, hey, I'm going to take this UX course, and because of this course, I'm going to learn X, Y, and Z, which will help with capability X, Y, and Z, or ABC, and being able to link it back to exactly what the outcomes of this course will do for you, right? I think that's important. It will also strengthen your position at the company and strengthen confidence in the company itself if you have these credentials of like a certification or a course or going to a conference. Conferences are a little bit more easier to sell, I think, just because a lot of times conferences provide you with justification kits to go back to industry and say, these are the things that I'm hoping to get out of it. And this is how it's going to help our product. So it's a little easier to do it from that perspective. If it's a tangential conference, it's a little harder, but still doable, right? Let's say you're in, I don't know, like, in the defense industry and you go to a defense conference. That's not going to be out of the realm of, possibility, I think. If you're going and mingling with the people that you are potentially going to interview for, user interviews somewhere down the line, I think or building those connections. I think that's important too. It might be a tougher sell if you're in defense industry and you want to go to an electronics show or something, it's going to be a tougher sell. Although you still could probably do it. I don't know. I don't have really any other thoughts on this. It's just kind of do your research with what you get out of the conference, link it back to how it's going to improve your performance. And especially if you're trying to switch roles in the company, maybe let that be known, but be strategic about it. I wouldn't try to do everything all at once. I would say, maybe start more subtly and then work into it. But that's just me if you're trying to, switch roles in a company. Any other closing thoughts on this one?
Yeah, it depends on the size of the company to a certain extent. If you're part of a large company, then actually probably switching roles and stuff is a bit easier. If you're part of a really small company, then make their lives easy by laying out that argument. Going to conferences is if you're going to human factors conferences and you're already a human factors practitioner, then absolutely recommended to do so, because it is about learning new content, but it's about the networking. It's about, there is us human factors people are few and far between. We need to stick together in packs and herds. So that's a great way of doing that. But if you're part of a larger company, you sometimes do struggle with that they'll only pay for maybe one person out of your department to go. So just make sure that's you.
Yeah. All right. Let's get into this next one here. This is how do you organize user feedback? Their specific situation is an early stage startup. This is by Fuel Powerful on the user experience subreddit. They say, I work for a really small startup and we're just getting new clients in our beta. I've been organizing user feedback in different ways as we're doing research, but I'm trying to get a better process to organize and prioritize feedback since it's starting to come in through different channels. So like sales teams, account executives, technical onboarding specialists, etc. Has anyone found a good process? It's not something that has to be perfect as we're still small, but something we could use as we grow and eventually find a more solid solution as we get more clients. For right now, I was thinking about an Airtable or Google Doc so I could use Zapier to automate things if needed. What are your thoughts on that, Barry?
I think they're probably starting off in the right place. Some sort of spreadsheet. You can't beat a good spreadsheet for this sort of thing. Especially once you get your auto formatting and all that sort of stuff sorted out. You can see where my geek comes into play. And the good thing about using a spreadsheet for this sort of thing, it's easily communicated as well. Chances are your clients or your users or whatever will also have access to that type of thing. However, there are a bunch of other ideas you can use. I mean, you can go back to basics and use basic cards for a card sort. If you've got different channels coming in, assign them different color post-it notes and actually go back to the physical approach. Not necessarily recommended on a large scale, but actually you can get some really nice almost heat maps type of approach just occurring just because of what you're doing. There's also digital versions of that. And almost any sort of I guess Kanban management software as well will do a similar thing. So you can use that type of approach as well to put things into the appropriate pipes and columns. But I would always pretty much revert back to some sort of spreadsheeting because you just have to. It's the best thing to use. My own opinion.
We're both spreadsheet guys. I love spreadsheets, and especially because if you set it up right, it will serve you. It'll serve like 90% of your needs. Right. Especially as you're collecting different data, you might be able to link that data together in ways that is new and exciting and exploratory in a lot of ways, especially for something like a startup. I will echo the Kanban management sort of, like Jira or I guess what else?
Trello.
Trello. I'm familiar with the Atlassian suite. So I think that is often a lot of times underlooked. I think the big advantage to that is that you can align to the company's goals earlier on. So you can see what's coming down the pipeline. And if you make your own tickets in there, you can attach them and say like, hey, look, we need to do a user thing on this thing. And you attach all that user feedback to a separate ticket or to the ticket that it matters on, right? So like, let's say a developer needs to develop some interface. That might be good to attach a mock-up to, right? So
absolutely right.
There's several different ways that you can align, but I think you're right. A good spreadsheet, you can't beat it. And the other thing I want to mention too is that there's situations in which you cannot necessarily collect digital feedback all the time, especially in the defense industry. You might be in spaces where you can't take in electronic devices. And so for that, good pen and paper is your friend there, and just make sure that you're designing the surveys for physical use, which is a whole separate skill, because they're going to have enough space to write the things down on physically on paper. And you store a hard copy, but then you also digitize it. And that's a lot of work, but it's work that's necessary when you go back and look at the results. Anything else on this one?
No, I think I just almost reinforce that last point. Is whenever I'm doing any of these sort of data collections, and I guess it's probably because I do so much in the defense industry, is you've always got to look at reversionary modes. Can't rely, 99% of the time digital works for you, and that's brilliant. But it's that one time, and it'll be the one point where you don't want it to fail, and it will. Yeah. And so, backups on your backups.
All right, let's get into this last one here. This one is, I got rejected from an interview, even though they reached out to me. This is from Susie XO. A recruiter messaged me for an opportunity at a big tech company. I meet all the requirements. I had an initial phone screening, and it was easy. The recruiter didn't seem to have knowledge about UX. For example, they asked me, can you talk about an architect that you worked on? Which I found very broad. So I asked, can you elaborate on what you mean? They said, this is asked by the UX lead. Architect means UX design you worked on, which I know, but I think it should be more specific. Also, they seemed really bored during the call, and I asked at the end if I'll have a chance to do UX research. They said, no, this is a design role, even though I read the job description and I know it mentioned conduct usability testing. I got a rejection email, which I'm wondering why. The role is open for all levels of experience, junior to seniors, and I meet all the requirements. Barry, what's going on here?
I think it just reminds me of the title of a film. They're just not that into you. I hate to be a bit brutal about it, but I think part of the problem. This is part of the problem. I think with going through recruiters. Certainly, you've engaged with a recruiter and you've engaged with an interview team that isn't necessarily the team you're going to work with. They've been given questions to ask, so they don't necessarily know what you're talking about. They're taking the answers down and putting it back. But fundamentally, it isn't just about you meeting the skills for a job. You've got to have the right, the right attitude, and for them to have the confidence that you're going to fit into their team. So I think perhaps maybe just the way either you come across, or they just didn't think you were going to be a good fit. Just meeting the requirements of the role itself isn't enough in some cases, particularly if you may be going for the big tech companies where they know the sort of behavior a lot, that specific behavior model that they want to come in, and they've seen, maybe they've recruited for this position quite a few times before already, if they're recruiting a number of them, so they kind of know what they want. If you're looking for that sort of job where you want to be able to look at a broad range of things, that's actually possibly you need to look at a smaller company, because they certainly in my experience, just being able to have the right sort of CV just gets you in the door. Once I'm interviewing somebody, I actually don't care about the CV at that point. It's all about the person. It's all about the person. Will they fit with the people I've already got? Will they fit in the type of projects, and with the type of clients I've got? So it's as much about culture and behavior as it is about the courses that you've done. What about you in your experience? Have you been in this sort of had this sort of experience before?
Oh, geez, this is a very much read the room type of thing. Like, to me, I feel like this person thinks they're being headhunted, which is not the case here. They're being reached out to by a recruiter. And, recruiters look for certain criteria. They run a search on LinkedIn that matches, your criteria. And then they reach out to you and say, hey, we have this position available. Would you like to apply for it? It's an additional avenue of getting people to apply to that position that they might not have had before. And so just because they reached out to you doesn't mean that they wanted you specifically. That means that they were looking for people like you, and they have asked probably 50 to 60 other people that match your level of experience. And as it sounds like, and I don't mean to say this to be mean, it sounds like you bombed the interview, or they just didn't see you fitting in with the company. And that's unfortunate, but especially as it relate, especially as it relates to these like weird positions where they say they want somebody with user experience research but it's more of a design role. I'm glad you figured that out, but it's important to ask that kind of stuff up front because, even before you get to the interview, like that's something I would have asked the recruiter as they reached out to me. It says, hey, I saw that this position says user experience design, but it says a designer, right? And you ask for that clarification before you even get to the interview phase and waste everybody's time. I think it's a tricky situation because a lot of times you have HR departments that write positions, especially in larger tech companies, which it sounds like this is. You have HR writing these things, and it's not necessarily the UX team writing the description, and so it can be confusing. And I don't know. My best point of advice is to try to ask for clarification whenever possible. And it sounds like you did. Maybe it was a little bit too late. Anyway, I think any other closing thoughts on that one?
Yeah, just really quick. I mean, again, if you really want to know what they truly thought of you, go back and ask them. Most recruiters are quite happy to give you feedback if you go back and ask them after the interview. You didn't choose me. What can you give me some feedback to improve? But fundamentally, it's a bit like any sort of relationship. If I wouldn't really worry about it. If they didn't want you, then I wouldn't bother chasing it down because why would you want to chase up something where they one half the relationship what clearly wasn't going to go and work? There's going to be a job out there with your name on it. Go find it.
Yeah, but what if it's the biggest tech company that you want to work for and it's like perfect and you just didn't hear back?
I've got to. I've been in that situation. I've been in that situation. I was headhunted, and it's the only time it's happened. It was amazing, and I went for the interview. And in fact, for the first couple of interviews, they didn't even tell me who they were. It was really that sort of secretive. It was kind of weird. Anyway, finally went to their base and had their interview, and it felt like it was when I found out who they were, it was going to be a dream job, absolutely amazing job. When I got there, it wasn't anything like I expected. And I ended up turning it down, which was just weird. In fact, I remember walking out and saying to my wife, she's like, how'd it go? How'd it go? And I was like, I turned them down. I didn't want it. I didn't like it. And it freaked me out for a while because, but so if it's not what you think it's going to be, then you just got to crack on and move on.
All right. Well, let us move on here to get to this last part of the show called One More Thing. It needs no introduction. This is where we just talk about one more thing. Barry, what's your one more thing this week?
So my one more thing, I was going to talk about the new James Bond movie that's come out, and then there's been a suggestion that should be a female James Bond. What would that look like, and should she be 007 or actually maybe 009? But actually, I just wanted to highlight the fact it's never too late to get involved in human factors. My wife has, even though we both did our degree together in command and control systems many years ago. She's literally just started her human factors master's degree and completed in the past week her first assignment, which apparently she tells me now was held up to the rest of the students on her course as an exemplar of how to do it. So I'd just like to say from myself to her, and we'll actually find out whether she listens to this. Congratulations and well done.
Yes, congratulations, well done. It's never too late to start. I love that message, and I have friends that started later in life down the path, and they're glad they did it. So if you're thinking about it on the fence, do it. My one more thing this week is I've never been an Apple guy, but my wife got the new iPhone 13, which is running iOS 15. And I found myself watching many of these feature videos on YouTube about like what are the new stuff in iOS 15, mostly for her benefit, because there's a lot of stuff that comes out on these releases, and it's important to know, and some of it can make your life really much better based on some of these features. But I have to say, I have to give it to Apple. Like I said, not an Apple guy, but they are killing it with some of the super cool stuff that they have going on. One of the cool things that I thought was really interesting is this focus mode, which is like a do not disturb mode on crack. You can kind of pick and choose which applications or notifications you want to persist in different modes, right? So if you're sleeping, you might say no applications, wake me up. You might also say, hey, in this situation, I only want my calls from my loved ones to come through, because if I get a call in the middle of the night, it's probably important. Likewise, you can say I'm studying, and so I only want my music apps to be visible. No social media, no nothing. I'm at work. I only want Slack or the Microsoft suite to be available. I don't know if Microsoft's on Apple, but I'm just giving use cases. Yeah. And I always liked Android for kind of that under the hood customization that you can do, and it looks like Apple's kind of catching up with that. So that's kind of cool to see them come around on some of that. All right. Well, I think that's going to be it for today, everyone. Let us know what you guys think of this episode. We invite you to check out our recap of the 2021 Human Factors and Ergonomics Society International Symposium on Healthcare and Human Factors. It's got a lot of that healthcare stuff in there. Feel free to comment wherever you're listening with what you think of the story this week. For more in-depth discussion, you can always join us on our Slack or Discord communities. Visit our official website and sign up for our newsletter to stay up to date with all the latest Human Factors news. If you like what you hear, you want to support the show, there's a couple things you can do. 1, leave us a 5-star review. That is free for you to do. You can do that right now. 2, you can tell your friends about us. We always grow from word of mouth, so consider doing that. Or 3, if you have the means available, consider supporting us on Patreon. We always like giving back to those who give to the show. All that money goes right back into the show and helps us grow. As always, links to all our socials on our web and our website are linked in the description of this episode. I want to thank Mr. Barry Kirby for being on the show today. Where can our listeners go and find you if they want to talk about what an eggplant and a peach means?
You can find me on Twitter at Baz_K. You can also find me on Facebook and Instagram, and the 1202 Human Factors podcast and your local podcast directory.
Excellent. As for me, I've been your host, Nick Roome. You can find me streaming on Twitch every Monday evening at sometime for office hours and across social media at Nick_Roome. Thanks again for tuning in to Human Factors Cast. Until next time,
it depends.
All right. If you're hanging out with us, stick tight. We're going to do a post show here. There we go.
Cool.
That was fun. That was a good episode.
Yes, no, that was cool. I found it easier than last week, because obviously last week I came in and everything was done for me, and I just had to all the show notes and that, and it was all there. So I found it was easier being able to dig into stuff, because then you remember what you're talking about, don't you?
Yeah. It's it's nice to prepare, I guess. Right? That's the moral of the story there.
I missed an opportunity, because I told you about my new Roadcaster desktop I've been using. I just realized that it gives me all sorts of I've got a sample board, so I can do things like this.
Oh, that's great.
And then I think it's this one, which is the one that and all that, and I can do all that. The problem is I completely forget about it when we're doing stuff, and because I could have put them in at appropriate time. Can
you is there a way that you can set that to your input, so like you have your mic come through and then have those feed in through your mic feed? So it basically comes through your computer, because what I'm hearing now is like external audio, right? So I'm hearing it through your microphone, not as your audio source.
It is that's coming through my audio source.
Oh, it sounds like it's coming from like your environment around you.
Nope, that's coming straight from the deck, and it's coming in. So my microphone and goes into the deck, and this is it's one of the buttons in the deck itself, and then goes out to the computer. So it's all merged audio output.
That's interesting, because it sounds like it's diegetic. It sounds like it's in the world around you.
Maybe I could, if I turn
try the button again.
Let's do.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just the audio quality itself. I'm not sure.
Could be. I've not really played with it and listened to it back. I need to do a recording and then listen to it back and see what it was like. In fact, I'm recording. I can do that from here after the show. So it's another public service.
Public service. Speaking of podcasting tech, have you heard of this Descript? Have you heard of that?
No. What's Descript?
Descript is interesting. So I just heard about it today. I am going to pull up an example here. So like I said, I just heard about it today. I'm going to try it out, but it has a lot of tools for things like editing audio, video, and transcription stuff. It's pretty robust, and it's actually got like deepfaked audio that you can use to insert corrections to your podcast. So like let's say I were to start the episode tonight and be like, this is episode 119. I'm your host Nick Roome, and I go, I don't want to re-record that. I'm going to say it's episode, I type in episode 220, and it will use my voice that it's trained on it to insert that audio. So I don't have to go back and re-record it.
That's pretty cool.
I saw a video on it earlier, and it seems pretty cool. Here, I have Descript up. I'm going to show you. I'm going to try the transcription services tonight. But what's really cool is like, let's say you went and you recorded some audio. Actually, I'm going to try this really quick. Let me just unshare my screen really quick. I'm going to try something.
There's a live demo to see if it works.
Yeah. I am looking for tonight's episode, so I just saved it out. And I'm going to see what this thing does in terms of like a transcription type of deal. But you can see here, here's tonight's episode, right? So you have the intro here, and then I think it starts. Yeah, that's episode 200 and whatever. I don't know so there's no script track. I don't want to transcribe because you only get 3 free hours a month. I don't know if that's per month. Anyway, the idea here is that this would be synced to the transcription up above. And let's say you didn't want a piece of it in your final audio. You could basically go in and say, oh, I don't want that to be there. And you delete it from here. It deletes it from the transcript. And likewise, you can come up to the transcript and do the same thing. You can come up and say, oh, they said, it depends. Here at the end, said it depends, and I don't want them to say that. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to actually delete this because I don't want them to say it depends, and then it would theoretically delete that section. Yeah, see, I think it deleted it.
Cool. Trying to go through all of the audio because you knew there was something that was said that you need to cut out.
Right, so you got to search for it or something like that. Yeah, this is the free version.
I might have to have a play.
Yeah, I'm. Let me just say this: I'm excited to potentially use this on future projects. Let me put it that way.
Yeah.
Could be very cool, and I think it does live transcription. Here, let me show. So I'm going to just do a little live transcription here. We'll go ahead and hit record. It transcribes live, so if I'm recording in the app here, it automatically understands what I'm saying here, and you can see it live there, which is fine. There's other services that do this, but I think the value is when you say, and you can see here, right? It actually highlights it, and you can see here, I don't want to say that. I don't want to say that in the final thing, and you can see it live here.
That is so cool.
I don't want to say the which is fine either. I just want to say there's another. I want to say there's another. So I delete that, and it deletes it from down here. Isn't that neat?
That's really, really neat, actually. Especially if you're doing, like I said, like the interviews that we do and that type of thing. Then just being able to actually quickly check for maybe buzzwords that you need to pull out, or swear words or anything like that. You want to, clean it up a bit, and that's really neat. That would make. I wonder how much is that a web-based service then, or is that a download?
It's just a download.
To see how much processing power it takes.
It seems like it's pretty hefty, which is why I didn't have it up during the show tonight. But apparently it does this with other mediums too, so you can do this with video as well, and have it just cut out stuff, which is interesting. Cool. I'd be curious to try it for podcasting first.
Yeah. It seems it's an obvious trial, isn't it? So
yeah. I also this is a whoop. Oh wow, that's poor quality too because it's recording from the wrong mic. I want to see here if I say a lot. I don't know how best to say this without actually saying So I'm gonna try this. I don't know if that recorded. It's transcribing it now, so maybe. Here, why don't I just do this? Why don't I just start clean? I'll try the uhs. Here I am, saying and so here, okay, that's it. That's the episode. Oh, I wasn't recording. This sounds really dumb, but here we go. I'm going to play this audio back without the uhs. Okay, let's try this. I don't know if it went through. The thing I was trying to do there was search for uhs and have it come back, you know? So that way I could just find uhs and delete them all and see what that audio sounded like. Anyway, I don't even know if you can hear my audio through this thing, but this is going to be really bad audio for our patrons, I just realized.
What's the worst that can happen?
Okay.
Yeah, because one thing I'm really bad at saying and but I'm also really bad at saying so. At the start of a segment or something, I'll say, so we are doing this today, and so I keep on then trying to cut them out. But I did that for the first few episodes of and then I got bored, and I leave my so's in now. But if I could do it, if you could almost do a find replace,
or just exactly
cut out, then that would be really, really useful.
Yeah, and it's something that you'll be more cognizant of as you're recording, right? Those words are okay, but you don't want to link them together, right? You notice I said more, or I gave more space to the uhs and ers and ums, and it might actually help you if you are paying more attention to them as you're recording, because then you might go, okay, so, and provide more space in between those words rather than so, you know, linking it together like that. You might think about it differently if you have something like this as a tool. I don't know. I think it's cool. I'm really interested to like play around with it. I'm going to try transcription for tonight's episode in here and see if that works well. I think I may have killed the audio. Oops.
Well, I've got to admit that's something that I don't do yet. Is transcriptions, which is something I need to look at, and is possibly a next step.
Well, you want to talk shop really quick? I do transcriptions if so IBM Watson has a demo. I just do automatic AI transcriptions through them.
Okay.
And if that's not working for whatever reason, we do upload all of our episodes to YouTube. And so, thanks, Kristen. She said, "Great show, guys." So I do upload all of our episodes to YouTube as well, right? So, and they have the automatic captions that you can copy and download. It doesn't do a lot of fun things like identifying speakers, which is unfortunate. There's a service that we're looking at potentially, you know, once we get a couple more patrons, we can invest in another service that does do the speakers. But I find that just using the basic level transcription really helps with SEO.
Right. Okay.
And so like even if it's a poor man's, you know, audio transcription, it'll help. I do want to go the extra mile and pay for the service eventually, because that's like next on our list, you know, as we get more funds inside. Next on our list is the audio transcription, because it's important for hearing impaired, and I think that's a really important subset of folks that I do want to make sure that we include as people who can enjoy the content that we put out. And so having that tool available to us, the one I'm looking at is Otter AI, but this one might work out. I'm not sure. 3 hours is like 3 out of the 4 that we produce a month. So
yeah,
we'll see.
Well, that's it. I mean, that's one of the things I like is the ability to try. I mean, there's so many tools coming out at the moment. I mean, I've had to go with Otter AI for a project I was working on a couple of years ago, and it's very good. But then, like, there's so many more of them out there now at different price brackets. It's worth having a look around.
But for some reason, Restream is not letting me put back in the music. Anyway, that's okay. We can fill the air. What other audio transcription services have you looked at?
I can't remember the names of them now. Because we did look at quite a few different ones, because I got involved in a project. It wasn't just transcription, but it was how to put audio forward from like bots and things like that, because we did a project on producing a virtual version of me. So looking at the digital side of things. So it was for a military customer, but it was fundamentally looking at could we have a digital version of me and a live version of me, both communicating through a chatbot interface, and could you tell the difference as to which was live and which was virtual? But looking at, because spending a whole lot of time being asked questions by the machine, so the machine could learn about me, the way I make decisions, the way I do stuff. It was a fascinating experience. But we ended up using a lot of different technologies to try and look at the input and output and transcribing things.
What was it successful?
Yeah, it was.
How do you measure success with something like that? But like,
yeah, it was a bit mad from that perspective, because it was a lot of people were really engaged with it. I mean, we took it on a couple of so the main client obviously saw it, but then we took it to some schools and stuff as well, and so to show what technology could do, and it was fascinating. It also brought up so many issues around which we now just had to come to grips with, like what digital immortality. You know, the biggest thing was around, you know, what happens to your Facebook page when you die. Whereas now you can actually have, and there's some issues coming out in China and Japan where some people have been recreated in the virtual world. They've died, but they've got enough digital artifacts there, so you could almost recreate that person, and then their loved ones can go and talk to them as if they haven't passed, and things like this, which, you know, the ethics and the moral issues and the, you know, it's just mind blowing. It's massive. But there's now a good friend of mine. He's one of the key researchers in this field, and it's some of the conversations you can have with him are just fascinating.
Can I tell you, one of my secret background projects has always been like, okay, we have certain inputs and certain outputs that we have from the show, right? We have an input of some article.
Mm-hmm.
We have an input of supporting material, and we have an output of a podcast episode with a conversation between two people.
Yeah.
And at the basic level, I've always wanted to kind of put in the you know, training data of 220 episodes now of what a podcast episode looks like. Put in an article, put in the supporting articles, have an AI go through, pull out main points and conversational points for each person. I know we're talking about a lot of different systems right here. Then deepfake the voice, or produce a script, have a AI deepfake the voices, and do a completely digital version of the show just to see what comes out.
That would be really cool. Because there are advert software now where, so basically using AI now to write advertising and to do things, you know, short and medium form articles and things. So you're not a million miles away, are you?
No, and I thought about, like, well, I might say this off air, but I've thought about other applications for this type of thing, and geez, how do I say this without giving away the secret sauce? Anyway, I think it's fascinating, and I'll share with you as soon as we're off. But it's fascinating, and I've always wanted to try that project because you know, over time you could train it to do different things. And it's not like I'm trying to. I enjoy podcasting, and I enjoy doing them. This is not something that I would want to ever give up, but it is one of those things where I'm like, what would an AI do if it were me? And how would it interact with another AI that is another person, either you or Blake or another one of our guests that we've had on the show? And what does that conversation look like? And how many AI units do you set up? Do you set up one for me, one for Blake, one for analyzing a story, one for you know, turning the main bullet points into supplemental arguments, and one for the deep fake, and another one for the deep fake of the other person? And how does that whole conversation back and forth cadence go? And it's really interesting to me.
It's in many ways it's reminiscent of, do you remember Furbies?
Yes.
The little things. So basically what you want to do is an AI version of that, where you put two Furbies in front of each other and they'd have a conversation and you wouldn't know what they were talking about. You kind of want to do that, but on the AI for your podcast route.
Yeah. How cool would that be, right? Like,
yeah. It's when you realize that actually you don't need to turn up anymore, and they have great content, and you say, well, okay, I'm done. You just made yourself redundant.
As long as we're talking shop too, I've always thought about like AI to complete the post tasks, right? That I normally do, right? Like producing an episode, mixing the tracks, posting it to all the socials, coming up with some clever hook to get people to check it out, doing the patron only podcast. You know, like there's a series of steps that I do, and you probably see it in the post show checklist on the show notes. I've talked about it multiple times on the pre and post show, but like all those steps I do. And it'd be great to just press one button and have all that stuff like at least queued up for review, like a supervisory control role, because it takes a lot of time, and it'd just be nice to have all that stuff automated. And I know it could be, right? That's the thing, is like I know it could be. I don't have the know-how to automate all that, but it certainly would be cool.
Yeah, somebody clearly does somewhere, and therefore how it's how to make it accessible to to people like us, right? So, but you're right. It is. I think a lot of people don't necessarily see the amount of effort that goes into do the recording that we've just done, to then the steps you need to go through, and you've got more steps than I have in mind, because you go up to you got the video version, you got the audio version, that type of thing as well. So I used to think that mine was bad enough just trying to go through what I want to do. Yes.
Look, it's gotten easier, right? Because I mean, we since we've started with Restream, we've used tools, right? Our workflow is trim it up on Twitch, download it, post it up to YouTube. Basically, that's kind of the rough version for video.
Yeah.
And then all the podcast art, that's all done beforehand, right? Because we need to, in order to be able to promote it before. The audio production is really simple. I have templates that help me with that. It's like I said, it's just moving around the cues to where they belong. And with the video version, we don't do any posts, so it's not like there are steps that I could do in post, but it's not really worth the effort. It's more of like it's built in now with with these numbers. Where are they? Like these numbers. With those, we have those built in. So it's why would we trim off seconds when it takes
doesn't matter
an hour to do that, right?
Yeah, I agree.
The one thing that I'm like I'm still battling with, and it seems like it's working out in our favor, is IGTV. A lot of people tend to watch it on IGTV, which is weird. It's something that I didn't think would be as successful as it is, but people like that vertical format. And when it's like that's the one thing that I spend a little bit extra time on is instead of us side by side, I stack our images, but I have to do that separately, right? So I download it, I duplicate the track, and then I stack us and crop us to just this, and then I replicate the background in a mobile format. And that I do kind of tighten up depending, because you can't just show, like if I were to show this, half the computer would be on my screen, half the computer would be on your screen. So I have to go in and insert that, and that's the biggest pain when I go and do it in mobile. I mean, I could leave it and it'd probably be fine, but that's where I kind of draw the line, is like I do want that to be fine.
Yeah, you kind of got but I mean that's always, if you know that you've got a certain amount of people who are watching on a certain platform, you do need to tailor it, don't you? Otherwise they'll stop it. And
exactly.
So no, that's dedicated to the cause. I like that. So,
but if I could have an AI do it for me, that'd just be perfect. It just I could press a button and it would do all these things. I just know it's possible. And like, if anyone, hey, here's a call for action. If anyone listening is like into AI or knows anybody who could help out with this and wants to get involved with the lab, we have an opening for that type of thing.
Basically, we want some free AI.
Look, even if it's as simple as like downloading the show, uploading it to YouTube, and it's a couple simple button clicks. Like, even if it's a program that I have to install on my computer and you can see my webcam, I don't care. I'm not here like 50% of the time. So, and I'm never doing anything at this desk that I shouldn't be. So you could hack my webcam and it would be fine. I don't care. It's just give me the AI that does this thing. That's the price to pay. I'll do it.
So famous last words.
Right.
But no, you're right. There's it's a lot of this automation stuff. It's I mean, what's interesting, we were sort of talking about the Microsoft suite earlier. They, in their 365 package, they're now throwing out a lot more automation type tools as part of the overall package. And I'm just starting to produce an app on your phone of some, like say a SharePoint list or something like that is now really easy, or to do something really basic. But then they've also got a lot of automation going on. So if you put a file in somewhere, you can automatically copy it somewhere else and things like that. And so I'm wondering whether there is some potential application there. I've got kind of amused by SharePoint at the moment, because we did a transition from all of our stuff on Dropbox to SharePoint, and so I'm now learning. And my team are really bored of me learning. They hate SharePoint, but I don't care. I'm going to make it good. But that's my world.
Yeah, SharePoint. I'm not great with SharePoint. I hope that SharePoint is I know SharePoint's a really powerful tool. I just haven't spent the time and effort to get used to it. It's never been kind of in my wheelhouse. It's always been.
That's because Microsoft make things really difficult most of the time.
It's not like they try to. It's like it just they tried to trend set, I think, and it doesn't always happen the way they want it to.
No, I think there's, but I mean, saying that, I mean, I've got, like I say, SharePoint. Well, the whole suite is really powerful, and the way that they've got it working together now is really cool. I'm quite a fan. The good colleague of mine, he is part of the Google suite, and we constantly have our lunchtime discussion is, what have we found out new about our suites that actually we need to share and try and get one up on the other. We tend to end up level pegging, but it's different things work for different applications. So yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah. All right. Well, I know it's late for you. Thanks for talking shop with me. We're gonna go ahead and get off. Stick around for just a minute. I'll tell you what the thing I was thinking about. And for everyone else watching, thank you for joining us. Really appreciate it. Hope you enjoyed the show tonight. If you like Barry and want to see him more, give him a tweet or DM or something and let him know that you like him on the show. I like him on the show. And so with that, you can find him 1202 the Human Factors Podcast. I understand there's some fancy new artwork coming down the pipeline.
Yes, hopefully, if they sent me the stuff, then yeah, we'll have some new but maybe similar looking artwork.
And some other exciting projects happening in the future, TBD on that. But for now, everyone, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next week. Bye, everybody.